All right, this video is going to teach you two really important tricks and then a few others on how to do a full set that looks really, really full in 2 hours. All right, so just let's look at the basic physics of this, right? When you open your eye, what do you see? You only really see that bottom layer if you have extensions, because that's going to be totally completely covering every other layer. If you're not a lash artist, that might not make sense, but as a lash artist, that should click and that should make sense to you. If it doesn't, comment, DM me, and I'll help you understand that. So if you're going to focus on two areas, one area is going to be that bottom lash line because that is what your clients see, and the inner lashes. Okay, so take, I would say, a good 30-40 minutes working on your inner lashes and your lower lash line. Everything else, you guys, can kind of, throw together as you will, as long as you're following a map, and it will look beautiful, beautiful. I also want to touch on pre-made fans, because if you are somebody who does or who is wanting to take advantage of pre-made fans, I say do it, you guys. Clients don't care what you're using as long as it's good for their lashes and as long as they walk out feeling like they like how their lashes look. And okay, of course, as long as they hold well, but that's just a given. So if you do want to start playing with pre-mades, I would say focus on that lower layer, focus on those inner lashes, and fill the rest in with pre-mades and or, classics if you guys are doing spikes or a hybrid. But I would say if you guys do a full set, you focus on that lower lash line and the inners, you could probably get the full set done in 90 minutes. Actually, you guys, just because I love you, I'm going to make a video, and that's going to be my next video. Okay, here's my ADD kicking in. Let's not get too trailed off here. So I just wanted to touch base for artists who are newer. It doesn't really matter how you set your client up, as long as you're taping those lower lashes down and they're not coming into contact with those upper lashes on the upper lid. You really can't do it wrong as long as your client is comfortable and as long as your tape's not in the eye. You can use iPads, you can use tape, you can use so many different types of iPads and or tape or together or one or the other. It doesn't really matter as long as your client's not in pain, as long as those lashes are taped down, that lower lid is taped down properly, there should not be a problem. If you're newer, I always recommend checking in with your client to make sure that they're comfortable, because oftentimes that lower lid moves around, or if their eye waters slightly, that tape slips up so it gets into their eye. And a big tip that I give my newer students is to keep that tape a little bit below the water line, and that typically does the trick, but there's going to be clients who just defy all the odds, right? As you can see, I have taped her outer lashes up just slightly. When you're taping the outer lashes or the inners or even the centers, just make sure you're just taping to slightly change the angle, not taping them really, really upward, because not only is that going to change the direction and angle of the natural lash when you're placing it, when you release it, it's going to look slightly different than it did when you placed it. And number two, you're going to open the eye. Opening the eye is irritating because even if your client's eye is open just a sliver, they're going to feel those vapors from the adhesive, and it's really going to sting. They could actually feel the effects for, maybe 3 to 4 days if their eye was open the entire time. And something that I learned the hard way, I don't know why, but clients won't tell you that they're uncomfortable. Some will, but I would say probably 80% of clients will just kind of lay there and try and tough it out, and they won't tell you. So checking in with your client is always really important, especially if you're new and you're not really aware of what to look out for if your client might be uncomfortable. Okay, so when I start a full set, as you can see, I prefer to start on the outer corner and work my way in towards the nose. This is because if you start placing your lashes, you're not really going to see this until we start getting into the set, and I will bring that up again so that you can actually see it. When you start placing lashes, you are isolating, and obviously you can't see it right now because my hand's in the way, but now you can see. Okay, this is perfect. You notice that that extension is kind of being angled or forced the opposite direction, right? Because when your tweezer's open, it's going to force whatever's on the other side of the tweezer the opposite direction, obviously. So if you're doing that and you're starting towards the inners and you're working your way completely to the outer, what that's going to do is that's going to angle the fans towards the inner, so towards your nose. So think about that. If you're looking straight at your friend and they have lash extensions, think about what that would look like if their lash extensions were slightly angled towards their nose. It's weird, right? It's not going to look good. So start from the outer, work your way towards the inner. The only exception that I would make for this would be the inner lashes. Newer clients, or not newer clients, I'm so sorry, newer artists or clients who have more difficult inner lashes, I would say do those first, and then you're going to hop back out to the outer. By the time you get back to those inners, they're going to be dry, so it's not going to affect the angling of the inner lashes with the tweezers, because it'll be at least 90 minutes once you get back to it, so it'll be totally cured. Okay, so here's your big tip. You're not really noticing what I'm doing, but right now I'm focusing on that lower lash line. I am also placing lashes on the middle and the upper lash line, but I'm not getting them 100% full. So I'm probably getting them maybe like 50 to 60% full, and just really focusing on those lower lashes, you guys. Honestly, I feel like this is something that should be taught at your first volume class. This isn't really applicable to classic because, nothing hides anything. You just have that individual lash. But this is just the best tip, especially if you're in a crunch, especially if your client walks in late or they come in with 50% coverage and you only have time for a fill. This is the best tip. I'm going to repeat it just so you guys hear it again. Always focus on that bottom layer, okay? That is what's going to get you a full coverage look and going to save you a lot of time. Or if your client walks in, you are going to be like this lash fairy magician and they're going to say, oh my gosh, how do you get my lashes so full so quickly? And you didn't. You just focused on the part that they see. And whether or not you're doing 50% coverage, whether or not you're taking advantage of those pre-made fans and filling in, your clients are going to be so happy because what they see looks amazing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the products that I'm using, because I think that products are a big, huge reason as to why your clients' lashes will or will not last. Of course, we are using everything from SoCo Lashes. When I lash every client, I either use 2 45-degree tweezers or 2 petite crane tweezers, and I always have a straight. So I have 3 tweezers when I work. 2 45s and 1 straight is what I'm using in this video. That's typically my go-to, but I have the same results when I use the petite cranes. I think I just have more of the 45-degree angle tweezers in my cart, so it's just my go-to. But the petite crane tweezers are amazing as well. So if you've tried the 45, not your thing, try the petite crane. They're wonderful. If you kind of rewind, hop back and watch the beginning of the video, you'll notice that I use a straight tweezer for the outer lashes. You're also going to notice that I use a straight tweezer for the inner lashes. It's going to help you with those odd angled lashes, as well as when you tape the lashes up. It's really helpful to use a straight tweezer. Kind of go back and forth and try for yourself. It's a little bit hard to explain, but when you're actually using it hands-on, you can see how close you're able to get to the actual lash line with the straight tweezer. It's wonderful. However, I don't like the angle of it with my wrist when I'm going towards the center of the lashes. I prefer to use a 45-degree angle. Works better for me. My wrists don't hurt and my hands aren't as sore at the end of the day. For this client, I used 0.02 lashes. We should be launching these very soon. I also used 0.12 and 0.10 on the inner. I do a nice gradient, so I'll do my lashes or volume or whatever I'm using to create my denser look on the outers, and I always use a slight gradient. I will fade my fans into 0.12, and then I will fade my 0.12 into 0.10 on the very, very inner. For me in the beginning, I started doing this because I had issues making teeny tiny fans. I just couldn't do it. So this was kind of my cheat sheet. And my clients would come back and say, I don't know why your lashes look different than everybody else's, but I love them. And I didn't know for a long time what specifically they were talking about. They were talking about liking the inner lashes being less dense because they didn't have that root that their friends had when they went to other lash artists. So that's how I built my clientele so quickly. And it was by mistake because I wasn't good at something. So focus on what you're not good at. See how you can make it easier for yourself, because that might be your Easter egg or your secret or your brownie, so to speak, of what you do that other people don't do. And when people are looking at your lashes, they oftentimes can't tell. They're like, I don't know why it looks better. It just looks so good. It looks so good when I compare them to my friend's lashes. So don't ever underestimate what you're able to create. And just because other people say don't do it, you guys should do it. How many people told me that's going to look bad? Don't do it. But I did it. And hello, this is what I do to this day. So I just wanted to give a little bit of advice, you guys. Do what is best for you. Because if you listen to everybody else, you're never going to find out that secret little, what do they call it? That secret sauce that helps you stand out above everybody else. Okay. So something else that you guys will probably notice, you'll notice how often I pop in that mirror. I am constantly looking at my client's lashes to make sure that the angle's right, to make sure that when she opens her eyes, because remember, that's what they see, that bottom layer. When they open their eyes, that they're going to like what they see. I probably pop the mirror in, every 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes I'm doing it every couple of lashes. Okay, so now I'm going to be working on my inners. And if you can see, I bounced towards the very, very inner. I didn't start at the fans, and this is because I'm going to start planning out my gradient. I'm going to start planning out how I'm going to fade those individual 0.10 lashes into 0.12 lashes, and then again into the fans that I'm using. You never ever want to just go 0.10 and then switch to a 0.12 and then switch to your fans. What you want to do is, let's say, for example, you're doing your 0.10s. Okay, so let's say, I'm almost done with my 0.10s. Now you're going to use a 0.12 and go back to 0.10. So you're going to overlap an area where it's both 0.10 and 0.12. That way you're not going this jump from 0.10 to 0.12, and then you don't notice it. So it's this nice, beautiful blend. The same goes when you're blending your classics into your volume, right? So you're going to kind of overlap. You're not going to overlap them in the same way that you overlap the classics when you're going from 0.10 to 0.12. You'll overlap them in a little gap. So right about here where you're seeing, this is about where I would start playing with it. I would kind of start doing every third lash classic. Then I would do maybe 2 or 3 fans. And then I'm going to see how it looks with my mirror. And if I like how it looks, I'm going to stop with the fans and I'll fill in the rest with classics, because you don't want to go too heavy on the fans when you're trying to do that gradient, when you're blending, right? Because then you're going to go super, super dark, and then all of a sudden it's going to look really light colored because you're not doing that dark, dense black look of the fans, right? So you want it to go from black and slowly fade into gray. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, always comment. You can DM me on Instagram. I love to hear from you. Tag us if you use our products. And thank you so much for your support, you guys. We love you.